Alright, welcome back to GED 4-week prep. This is week 2. This week, Tuesday and Thursday, we'll take a look at the math test. Definitely the math test covers the basics: multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, ratios, percentages, word problems, and some basic algebra. Hopefully we'll get a chance to cover all that material here together today and on Thursday. Definitely a phenomenal resource to practice out of if you feel like you struggle with some of the basics is the Khan Academy website, khanacademy.org. Here is the link for the pre-algebra exercises. Really a phenomenal link and a excellent practice resource. Whatever you struggle with, you can start right at the beginning, right? They'll have videos, they'll have exercises, and even if you miss the questions, right, they can give you some very detailed instructions on how to handle each problem. Hopefully this material here is quite obvious, but maybe for something a little bit harder, this webpage can be extremely helpful. And definitely I would say in math, don't be embarrassed, right? Essentially in mathematics, whatever you're struggling with, that's where you should start, right? Definitely previous skills. Definitely if you struggle with basic arithmetic, just start there, right? Not bad. Okay, but for us today, let's go ahead and just work through the practice math test. Definitely if there's any questions, feel free to message me in the chat or even just ask the question aloud. Let's go ahead and begin with the official GED practice test here together. Okay. All right, we have about a minute and 30 seconds to read the instructions. Let's go ahead and do that. Welcome, Toby Lee. Here's some information that you need to know before you start this test. You should not spend too much time on a question if you are not certain of the answer. Answer it the best you can and then go on to the next question. Very important tip. Do not waste too much time on any one question. If you are not certain of the answer to a question, you can mark your answer using the flag for review on the question screen. At the end of the test, you can return to the question using the question review screen. Definitely write down an answer for every single question, but if you want to come back to it, go ahead and flag it for review at the end. We have 58 minutes to do this test. Test has 2 parts. Okay, so there is a no calculator section in part 1 and there's a calculator section in part 2, right? So definitely like the basic arithmetic becomes very important. So you need to be able to handle basic multiplication, addition, and division. Hopefully that will not be an issue, right? All right, let's go ahead and begin the test. Hopefully we'll be able to finish the full test by the end of the class. Okay, let's go ahead and zoom in here so that everyone can see the problem. So here, this is the no calculator test, right? We have some multiplication. Let's go ahead and work through this one together. All right, so decimal multiplication, really, you can handle it like regular multiplication. So here what I would do is multiply this top number by 2. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 1 is 2 again. 2 times 3 is 6. And then I'm going to multiply all that by 4, but this time I'm going to add the 0, right? Because we're one place over. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. I'm going to add all of that together. 2, 6, 0, 3, 1. And then here, I just like to use common sense, right? This one's a little bit hard to explain. Hopefully this will make sense. So if I'm taking about 31% of 4, hopefully you understand that the answer is going to be less than 4, but more than 0.4. So 0.4 would be 10%, right? So if you have 4.2, 10% of 4.2 is definitely 0.42. So 31.1% of 4.2, I just know that the decimal point goes here. Like the more traditional way that they teach you how to handle decimal points in school would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. You definitely can handle it this way. Like this technique, I don't know. I don't really know why it works, but it does work. So you count the numbers behind the decimal point, and then, so here's 1, 2, 3, 4, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4. So definitely you can think about it that way as well. Okay. Right off the bat, decimal multiplication. Not easy, but again, you can use common sense, right? Like, it's definitely not 13. It's definitely not 186. And then 0.18 is just too small, right? So definitely, like, half of 4.2 is 2.1. 10% of 4.2 is 0.42. If you just know that, I'm looking for a number between 0.42 and 2.1. Definitely that's a very simple way to immediately get to answer B, right? This is kind of like the only answer that even falls within the general range of this answer. Next. All right. The number line is shown below. What is the distance in units from 0 to P? Okay, and then we have answer choices A, B, C, D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5. So here I would definitely say the distance is positive 4.5. So here you have to recognize that distance can only be positive. What is the distance from point 0 to P? The distance implies a positive number. So even though on the number line P represents negative 4.5 or 4.5, negative 4.5, the distance between negative 4.5 and 0 is positive 4.5. Hopefully that makes sense. Just making sure that they, I was hoping that they would maybe discuss it in the formula sheet. They do not do that. But the formula sheet in itself also very, very useful. We have areas, perimeters, volume, surface area, the definition of mean and median, slope. Here's some algebraic stuff. Okay, not bad. We're going to simplify this. Again, this is the no calculator test. What is 5 squared? 5 times 5 is 25. What is 2 squared? 2 squared is 4. What is 25 minus 4? Definitely that's 21, right? Thankfully, not a bad one. So definitely the first two were, especially the first one was quite difficult, but hopefully this one is not too bad. Again, 5 squared, 5 times 5, that's 25. 2 squared, 2 times 2 is 4. 25 minus 4, that's definitely 21. Hopefully everyone is following along without issue here. That's it. Interesting. Definitely, I don't feel the need to review any of those questions. All right, interesting question here. We have a graph, a circle graph. This circle graph shows the Steckles household budget as percents of the family's monthly income. Okay, so we have the budget. A third of the money goes to rent, another third, almost, 29% of the money goes to food, and we have utilities, savings, transportation, and entertainment. Here's the question. The Stecklers decide to spend less on food and on entertainment in order to put more money into savings. Which graphs could represent the Steckles' new budget? Okay, so here we have, I'm going to take some notes, right? So I'm just going to say rent is 33, food is 29, utilities is 11, savings is 10, transportation is 9, entertainment is 8, right? So basically we want to take these two numbers and make them smaller, and we want this one to increase, right? We want these two to go down, and we want this one to go up, the savings. Okay. So here entertainment went down, food also went down, savings also went down. This is not correct. Okay, so here specifically, we want to spend less on food and entertainment to put more money into savings. Yeah, so here definitely less money went into entertainment and food, but it did not go into savings. Okay. Yeah, so here food stays the same, entertainment stays the same, saving goes down. This is also wrong. Here food went down from 29 to 25, entertainment also went down from 8 to 7, savings went up, right? Let's see. So this one went down by 4%, this one went down by 1%, this one went up by 5%, and the utilities and transportation stayed the same. It's definitely this one, right? This looks pretty good. That's weird. So we have A, C, B, D. Why is that? That's okay. It's because we're zoomed in too much. Okay. And then for choice D, food and entertainment did not go down. Hopefully this makes sense, right? So here's the original budget. I took some notes on that here. We want to spend less on food and entertainment. So food went down from 29 to 25. Entertainment went down from 8 to 7. And then the savings, we started at 10% savings, but now we're at 15% savings. That's exactly what we want, right? The other numbers stayed the same. 33 for rent, 11 for utilities, 9 for transportation. Looks perfect. All right. Solve the inequality for B. So hopefully your algebra is looking pretty strong, right? Inequalities, you can treat them basically exactly like equations, except for one key difference. That key difference is when you multiply or divide by a negative number, you need to flip the sign of the inequality, right? So definitely it's a good idea to just follow along step by step. I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 3 over 2. This will cause these to cancel, right? Negative 2/3 times negative 3 over 2 cancels out. That's exactly what I want. I want to try to isolate B. Here you can think about it as dividing by 2/3. Dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by its reciprocal. So dividing by negative 2/3 is the same as multiplying by negative 3/2. And then, so here we get 10 divided by 2. 10 divided by 2 is 5. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. Hopefully that makes sense. You can also do negative 3 times 10 to get 30. Negative 30 divided by 2 is negative 15. And again, because we multiplied by a negative number, the inequality will change direction. We're going to continue to try to solve for B. We're going to subtract 9 on both sides. Subtracting is fine, right? The sign stays in the same direction. This is going to be negative 24. That is greater than or equal to 12B. We're almost there. To get to B by itself, we're going to divide by 12 on both sides. Get negative 2 is greater than or equal to B. Correct answer is A. Hopefully that makes sense. So this is basic pre-algebra. Definitely need to know this. If you have an inequality, you want to isolate the variable, you work backwards, right? So here I started by dividing both sides of the inequality by negative 2/3, or multiplying by negative 3/2. I went ahead and did that, and again, the sign changes direction when you multiply or divide by a negative number. Very important to know. And then here, I subtract 9 on both sides. Almost there. I'm going to divide both sides by 12 to get B by itself, right? Hopefully this makes sense. So if we have 9 plus 12 times a number, well, obviously 12b is going to be equal to that number minus 9, right? And then so we have some number is greater than or equal to 12 times b. Well, that means b is definitely less than or equal to that number divided by 12. Definitely, that's just how math works. You can definitely test it, right? Yeah, so b is less than -2, so let's try -3, right? Let's see, what happens if b is -3? So -3 is definitely less than -2, right? Okay, so -3 times 12, that's going to be -36. 9 minus 36, that's going to be equal to -27. -27 times -2/3, that's going to be 27 divided by 3 is 9 times 2 is 18, right? And -2/3 times -27 is positive 18. Yeah, so negatives cancel. Negative times a negative is positive. 27 divided by 3, that's 9. 9 times 2, that's 18. 18 is definitely greater than 10. Perfect. Looks good. A phrase is shown 7 times the sum of a number n and 4. Which expression represents this phrase? Okay? So here we have 7 times the sum of n and 4. Okay, so the sum of n and 4, that means to add n and 4, and we're going to multiply that by 7. Why is it not C, right? I think that would be a very natural question. And just because it's because of how the phrase is worded. It's 7 times the sum. Yeah, so that means we're going to multiply 7 to the total, not n. Definitely, this is what we're being tested on. Definitely try to understand that. A cereal company is designing containers for a new type of cereal. Each container will be shaped like either a rectangular prism or a cylinder and needs to have a volume of 258 and 3/4 cubic inches. In one design being considered for the container shaped like a rectangular prism, each container will have a height of 11.5 inches and a length of 7.5 inches. What will be the width in inches of the container? Interesting. So it looks like we get a calculator here, which is nice. We must already be in part 2. Yeah, so definitely within the GED test, there'll be a calculator button for the calculator section. This is what it will look like. So we're going to make containers for cereal. Either they're going to be boxes, rectangular prism is a fancy word for a box, or they're going to be cylinders, like tubes, right? One design being considered for the container shaped like a rectangular prism. Yeah, again, rectangular prism is a fancy word for a box. Each container will have a height of 11.5 inches and a length of 7.5 inches. What will be the width of the container? Okay? So hopefully everyone knows that the volume of a box is length times width times height equals the volume, right? If you don't know that, it's definitely in the formula sheet. The volume of a rectangular prism is length times width times height, right? They tell you that right here. Okay. So the volume is 258 and 3/4 cubic inches. Length is, or height, I guess height is 11.5. I'm going to say 11.5, right? And then the length is 7.5. And then we're trying to solve for the width, right? Okay, let's go ahead and just use the on-screen calculator provided by the test. Definitely I want to start with 11.5 plus 7.5. Hopefully that's not too difficult to understand, right? 7.5 is the same thing as 7.5. 11.5 is the same as 11.5. And here I want to make sure that I'm multiplying right. And that's 86.25. And then hopefully you guys know that this is 258.75. Definitely, in math generally, you don't want to work with mixed numbers. You definitely, if you're ever like unsure about what's going on, you can always just do 258 plus 3/4. Yeah, like if they gave you like a really difficult fraction, yeah, maybe you just want to ask the calculator very quickly what that is in decimal. This is how you would do that. And then here you can definitely just do 258.75 divided by 86.25 to get 3. Correct answer. And definitely this is a good point to work backwards from the answers, right? I'll give you a moment to look at the work here. So the length times width times height is definitely equal to volume. I plugged in the numbers provided by the question. Height was 11.5, length was 7.5. The total volume is 258 3/4. 11.5 times 7.5 is 86.25. I use the calculator for that. So 86.25 times the width must equal 258.75. Well then, very simply, you can do 258.75 divided by 86.25 to get 3. And definitely a really easy way to check that 3 is the correct answer. Just you can work backwards from the answers, right? So we can do 3 times 7.5 times 11.5. And here, if 3 is the correct answer, this should definitely give us the total volume, 258.75, or 3/4, right? Hopefully this is all making sense. Again, if anything does not make sense, just stop me, right? We can talk about it as much as you need. Okay. A cereal company is designing containers for a new type of cereal. Each container will be shaped like either a rectangular prism or a cylinder and needs to have a volume of 258 3/4 cubic inches. This is the same data from before. Here, type your answer in the box. You may use numbers, decimal point, and or a negative sign in your answer. One design being considered for the container is shaped like a cylinder. The container will have the height of 12 inches. What will be the radius of the container to the nearest tenth of an inch? Okay, so the volume of a cylinder is equal to pi r squared times the height, where r is the radius, and pi is 3.14, right? Definitely, if you didn't know that, you can use the formula sheet. The volume of a cylinder is right here, right? Pi r squared h. And then, just like before, the volume is 258.75. Pi is pi. We're trying to figure out what the radius is, and they told us that the height is 12, right? So here, I would go immediately to the calculator, right? I would start by doing 258.75. I'm going to divide that by 12. I'm also going to divide that by pi. I would just use the pi button, honestly. And then this will be equal to r squared. Hopefully that makes sense, right? Yeah, so here I divided by 12 and I divided by pi. So that means 6.863556921 is equal to r squared, right? Okay, so here to solve for r, I want to take the square root of both sides. So root. I put in this number. I'm getting this for r, 2.619839102. And here they specifically asked us to round to the nearest tenth of an inch. That's 1 decimal place. So that the answer that they're looking for here is 2.6. Right here we would round down to 2.6. Yeah, again, we have a cylinder. Volume, 258.75. 0.75 is the same as 3/4, right? Yeah, like definitely, if you don't know that, just ask the calculator. 3 divided by 4 is literally 0.75. And then here they're saying we have a cylindrical container, height 12 inches. You can use the formula sheet to find that the volume is equal to pi times r squared times h. We go and start plugging these numbers into the equation. 258.75 equals pi r squared times 12. We're trying to solve for r, right? R is the radius that they're asking for. So I divide both sides by 12 pi. I get that r squared is equal to 6.86355691, right? Again, I can't do this in my head, right? I literally just plugged it into the calculator. And then here, again, I cannot take the square root of 6.863556 in any reasonable amount of time by hand. You just want to ask the calculator immediately to take the square root of that for you, right? And hopefully you have your calculator with you. Hopefully you're following along. Hopefully you're practicing all of this, right? Okay, they want us to multiply this. Let's go ahead and try that. We have 2x plus 4 times x minus 4. This is basic foiling. So here, how does foiling work? FOIL stands for front, outside, inside, last, right? So we start with the front. So the front of the first term is 2x, front of the second factor. Front of the first factor is 2x. Front of the second factor is x. 2x times x is 2x squared. And then now we're going to do the outside. We have 2x times negative 4. 2x times negative 4, that's going to be negative 8x. Now we'll do the inside. 4 times x is 4x. And then now we'll do the last. 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. Negative 16. Right? Again, 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times negative 4 is negative 8x. 2 times negative 4 is negative 8. Negative 8 times x is negative 8x. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. And then here, you want to recognize that you can combine the inner terms. Negative 8x plus 4x is negative 4x. Correct answer is D. Again, basic foiling. Definitely, if you struggle with this type of stuff, this is all here. This is all in the pre-algebra section of Khan Academy. Definitely work through that. Definitely, they have really in-depth videos. If you want to work on it together right now, we can. Just let me know, right? Which one of these tables, which table of values represents a function? Okay. So a function, one thing that's very, very important to understand about a function is that for every value x, there is only one output y. What does that mean? So here, C is obviously wrong. So here, the issue with C is that when x is 2, there's two possible y values, right? So there's one value negative 3 and another value 1. This disqualifies it from being a function. For a set of data to be a function, every single input x must only have one unique output y. That's the definition of a function. There's really nothing to think about. Like, this is just the definition of the concept of functions that were developed in the 1600s. Like, it's not for any particular reason. It's because it's very easy to get stuck on these why questions, right? Just very simply, function notation, most of it comes from Newton, actually. A lot of the math that exists today comes from literally Isaac Newton. He invented calculus, right? A lot of it comes from Muhammad ibn Musa al-Khwarizmi, back in 700 AD, an incredibly brilliant Persian man who invented all of Algebra 1 and Algebra 2. Another big chunk of it comes from René Descartes from France in the 1500s. Another huge chunk comes of it from John Napier from Scotland. It's just, you definitely, I think this is what most kids need to hear when it comes to why questions for math. It's literally, most of it boils down to there were 10 of the literally most brilliant human beings that have lived throughout human history. They made these rules. Yeah, and they work. They definitely work, right? the reason why we still use these rules is because no one has bothered to come up with a more effective rule, essentially. Um, yeah, so just understand. Yeah, like we have this concept of functions. It comes from Newton. Yeah, so here D is also wrong. Yeah, so here we have 4 3s, and they all have different outputs. This literally breaks the definition of a function. And then B also has the same issue here. We have -2 twice for x, and they give us different numbers. That's wrong. Correct answer here is absolutely A. Yeah, these are just things that you gotta know. You know, it's a test, right? You either know it or you don't. You can do it or you can't. Like, this is just how tests work. And definitely, like, yeah, if you're like truly interested in like the underlying mechanisms of mathematics, like definitely that stuff's great to work on in college or like graduate school. But I think like in a testing situation, you don't really want to get stuck on these types of issues. Just know the definition. A function takes one input and gives a unique output, and be able to recognize that. Okay, so here we have 4 different inputs and a bunch of outputs. Yeah, like definitely like we have, so here like a natural question maybe we have a -4x and a 1x and they both output a 7. That's fine. Yeah, so you don't need unique outputs. What you need is that each input only has one output. Yeah, as soon as you have one input that has multiple outputs, this is no longer a function. Hopefully I'm making sense. A house, we have a word problem here. A house has a large window made of 15 equal size pieces of glass, each the same size and shape. There are 3 pieces of glass that are cracked. If a rock is thrown by a lawnmower, hits the window, what is the probability that the rock hits a piece of glass that is cracked? Answer is B. So they're saying that we have a window, big window, and the window has 15 pieces, right? Yeah, so here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And then 3 of these pieces are cracked. And just for simplicity's sake, let's just say it's the top 3 that are cracked, right? So if the rock hits one of the 15 pieces of glass randomly, which is the presumption here, what's the probability that we hit one of the cracked pieces of glass? Well, hopefully you can tell it's like literally 1 out of 5. Yeah, so we have like 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows, 4 rows, 5 rows, right? Yeah, this is literally 1 out of 5. Definitely mathematically, you can think about it as 3 out of 15. Well, 3 out of 15, you can simplify this. 3 out of 15 is definitely like literally 1 out of 5. Definitely, you can use the calculator to do this if you ever struggle with that. Hopefully this is obvious. 3 out of 15 is 1 out of 5. Both these numbers are divisible by 3. But if you ever struggle with this type of thing, definitely the calculator can just do it for you. And then, so 3 divided by 15 is 0.02. And then what you can do is hit second F arrow arrow D. We have this F arrow arrow D. It's literally 1/5. Yeah, again, if anything I'm saying is not making sense, just let me know, right? Hopefully if you have a TI 30XS, which is the calculator that you're allowed to use in the GED, hopefully you'll just follow along and hit exactly the same buttons that I'm hitting, right? Yeah, like, so here, for simplicity, I just made 1 through 3 the cracked windows, but it doesn't matter which ones are cracked, right? Like, if there's 3 of them that are cracked, well then the odds that you hit a cracked one is 3 out of 15. 3 out of 15 is literally the same as 1/5. factor. Factoring, right? Factoring, right? How do I explain how to factor? Like, definitely, they teach factoring in all sorts of crazy ways in school, right? But really, it just comes down to this. What you need to be able to do in this type of situation, when you have like the three terms, the x squared, x, and a constant, you need to think of factors of the first term and factors of the constant. So the factors of the first term here are pretty simple. The only real factors are 3x times x. Because, I mean, obviously you could do like a 1.5x times 2x or something, right? But like in factoring, in high school level factoring, generally you don't use decimals in your factors. And so the whole number of factors of 3, there's only one. 3 is a prime number. It's 1 and 3, right? So here, the only possibilities for factors is 3x and x. And thankfully, you don't even have to think about that. The answer choices, these are your only options. And then here, the next thing that you want to think about are factors of negative 6. So negative 6 has obviously negative 6 times 1, or 6 times negative 1, or 3 times negative 2, or you have negative 3 times negative 2. Negative 3 times positive 2, excuse me. You will not get a link of this session at the end of the class, so I have to like upload this video to YouTube. If you want to give me your email address, I can email it to you like 2 hours later. I was planning on just giving out the link on Thursday. Okay. Where was I? Okay, so I was thinking about factors of negative 6. So this one's also not bad. There's negative 6 and 1, 6 and negative 1, 3 and negative 2, and negative 3 and 2. Yeah, so here, thankfully, the options for the x's are set. It's 3x and x. There's no other combination, right? So here it just comes down to, so you just have to try all the different combinations. So you have to try like negative 6 and 1. You have to try 6 and negative 1. You have to try 3 and negative 2. And then you have to try negative 2 and 3. And then you have to try negative 3 and 2. And 2 and negative 3. And you just have to try all of them until the middle term matches up, right? And here hopefully you can tell that the middle term matches up. So here I do 3x times 3 is 9x. 3x times 3 is 9x. Negative 2 times x is negative 2x. 3x minus 2x is 7x. That's exactly what I'm looking for, right? Like, there's really no shortcut here. You just need to be systematic. Ask you to make like little boxes or little charts or blah blah blah. Like, I've seen some kids like start making fish. Like, a lot of kids do a lot of weird things to factor, but really this is what it boils down to. You need to be able to think about the factors of the first term. Thankfully, there's only one set, 3x and x. You need to think about the factors of the constant. Here, this is a little bit more complicated. You have negative 6 times 1, 6 times negative 1, 3 times negative 2, or negative 3 times 2. And then you just need to try all of them until you get a combination that allows you to get 7x in the middle. You just have to be quick. Like, obviously, having more experience will help you do that. But this is it. Like, it comes down to guessing and checking. You know, like, I think a lot of kids that are like not particularly good at math are shocked about this. But a lot of math is just guess and check. Like, literally, it's just guess and check. You just have to try everything until you find it. Like, the more experience you have in factoring, the faster you'll be at eliminating obnoxious combinations. Yeah, so here, obviously, like, I see this question. I know immediately it's not going to be 6 or 1. I know it's not going to be either of these. Why? Because 6 times 3 is 18. 18 plus 1 is 19. Like, we're nowhere near 7. Like, that's we're never going to get to 7 that way. I can just see that immediately. So I know it's either going to be 3 negative 2 or 3 negative 1. And I'm thinking, like, what's 2 times 3? 2 times 3 is 6. Well, then if I have a negative number, 6 minus 2 is... 6 minus 3 is 3. I don't want 3, I want 7. So here it must be 3 times 3 to get 9. 9 minus 2 is 7. That's the correct answer. Right? Like, it's this kind of thought process, and you know, like, thankfully I can do this in like 4 seconds. But you know, if it takes you like 2 minutes, it's fine. You just need to practice this until you can do this until in like 3 minutes or less. And like, that's why math is hard, right? There's no hack, there's no cheat. You just have to, like, these are the skills that have been developed by the greatest minds in human history for the last 2,000 years. And they've like really boiled it down to as simple as you can get it. And you just need to do it. You know, like, this is a great place to start. Yeah, if this is something that you really struggle with, this is a great place to start. Okay, yeah, let me just save everyone's email addresses here. And then thankfully, yeah, if I just send you one email, it should be fine. I'm going to create a playlist, and all of these videos will be on a playlist. Oh God, I just need to type these out. Hopefully I don't make a typo. Say these out loud, right? I don't want to dox you guys. That's a really cute email. Oh no, it's you guys are just sending it to everyone. Okay, I don't need to worry about it. You guys can see it. That's funny. I'm like so worried about like leaking personal information, but you guys are just leaking it yourself. It's fine. It's fine. Okay. We have a graph. Location of a bookstore is over here at 5-2. Okay. You just know that. Yeah, so like in a coordinate pair, X value goes first, Y value goes second. You guys know this stuff, right? Just, you definitely don't mess it up. It's very easy to mess up. Put it in the correct order. The numbers are positive here. X first, Y second, 5, 2, right? Don't miss this one. This one, yeah, like, don't miss this one. With the equation y equals 45x represented in the number of miles y Mr. Miller's car can travel using x gallons of gas, which data display represents a car that gets more miles per gallon than Mr. Miller's car? Pretty sure the answer is A. Okay, it's definitely not C, right? So here we have y equals 45x represents the number of miles that Mr. Miller's car can drive using x gallons of gas. Hopefully you understand that means that he has a really nice car. It must be like a Prius or something. He's getting 45 miles per gallon, right? Yeah, so if x is 1, I have 1 gallon of gas. Yeah, 1 times 45 is 45. That means we can go 45 miles per gallon. That's crazy. So here, the graph ones are the easiest ones. Yeah, so here, for 1 gallon of gas, we get 40 miles. Still amazing, but still not better than 45. And then for C, it's about 35. Still amazing gas mileage, but definitely less than 45. And then here for this one, like very simply, you can do like 195 divided by 5. Yeah, so if I have 5 gallons and I can get 195 miles out of that, I can do 195 divided by 5 to get 39. Again, still phenomenal. That's great gas mileage, but definitely still less than 45. But A, we have 96 for 2 gallons of gas. That's outrageous. That's 48 miles per gallon. Very simply, it's 48 miles per gallon. And, it doesn't matter which numbers you choose. 192 divided by 4, this should be the same number, yeah. The A has the gas mileage that's greater than 45. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't know what else to say. So we have this equation y equals 45x, which represents number of miles y Mr. Miller's car can travel using x gallons of gas. Okay, so hopefully you understand that would mean that if I have 1 gallon of gas, I could go 45 miles. That's literally 45 miles per gallon. Again, the graphs are easier. This one represents 35 miles per gallon. This one represents 40 miles per gallon. So 1 gallon of gas gets me 40 miles. 1 gallon of gas gets me 35 miles. 5 gallons of gas gets me 195 miles. I did that on the calculator right. That was 39. And then, 96 for every 2, that's more than 45. That's 48. Jeremy has a weekend job as a soccer referee. One weekend he earns $140 by working 4 games. Another weekend he earns $210 by working 6 games. If Jeremy graphed an equation that would represent his total earnings based on the number of games he worked, what would be the slope of the graph? Let's read it one more time. Jeremy has a weekend job as a soccer referee. One weekend he earns $140 by working 4 games. Okay. So here the assumption is that he makes the same amount of money for each game. So if he works 4 games and he made $140, very simply, 140 divided by 4 is 35. He makes $35 per game. It's the same thing for 210 for 6 games. Yeah, 210 divided by 6 is also 35. He earns $35 per game. So we're going to graph an equation that represents his total earnings based on the number of games he works. What would be the slope of the graph, right? Yeah, so presumably the graph would be x-axis number of games he's worked, y-axis the amount of money that he makes. Well, the slope is definitely going to be money per game, and he definitely makes $35 per game. That's the slope. Does that make sense? Like I want to explain it well, right? But definitely, if I don't know where you guys are at, it's hard for me to come up with a good explanation. I'm just trying my best, right? Just without much information about where you guys are at. Yes, so definitely. This question is a very roundabout way of asking how much money does he make per game. If Jeremy graphed an equation that represents the total earnings based on the number of games that he worked, what would be the slope of the graph? The slope is the rate. If the graph is amount of money per game, the slope would be the amount of money per 1 game. It definitely, it's for sure it's annoying, but that's why it's a test. If the questions were too easy, it would not be a very useful test, right? So they have to write the question in this really awkward way. But at the end of the day, they're just asking how much money does Jeremy make per game. A pharmacist is filling small empty bottles with cough syrup from a larger bottle. He can solve this inequality 1000 minus 25x is greater than or equal to 250 to find the number of small bottles x can be filled from a larger bottle and still have 250 milliliters left in the larger bottle. Which statement describes the number of small bottles the pharmacist can fill? What a strange question. It's okay. Let's just do it, right? So we have this inequality. I want to isolate x. I'm going to subtract 1000 from both sides. Negative 25x is greater than or equal to -750. I'm going to divide by negative 25 on both sides. And then here, since I divided by a negative number, I need to flip the symbol. Definitely I don't trust my mental arithmetic, so I'm going to do it on the calculator. It was correct that time. Yeah, 250 minus 1000 is negative 750. Negative 750 divided by negative 25 is 30. Answer is A. Hopefully you can tell that B doesn't make sense. So if you say like I can fill up 30 bottles or more, well hopefully you realize like 200 million is more than 30, right? Well, there's no way I'm going to fill 200 million bottles. That just doesn't make sense. Like that's just not a nonsensical answer. And then 50 is just, this is just not the number that we got. We got 30, right? It's definitely A, and definitely X is less than 30, less than or equal to 30. And we just use the inequality to solve for that. Definitely you could just like test it on your own, right? You could like try 40. What happens if I have 40? So you could do that. Like just, you know, very easy way to check this one would just be like 1000 minus 25 times 40. And then here you'll realize, oh, that's 0. That's not greater than 250. That's wrong. Only possible answer is A. That's like a really, really nice way to handle this problem, right? But definitely you can just solve it directly as well. We have a graph. Which ordered pair describes a point that should be removed from the graph so that the graph represents a function? So I told you earlier, functions have one unique y value per x value. So the issue here is actually these two. We need to get rid of one of these two numbers. If you've taken like pre-algebra and algebra 1, maybe you'll remember the vertical line test, right? Functions graphically have to pass the vertical line test. This one fails the vertical line test because of these two dots here. But if we get rid of one of these two dots, the function will pass the vertical line test. So here, answer is A. So 1, 3 is not any of the options. So we don't even have to worry about that. But 1, 1 definitely is. If we get rid of 1, 1, this is still a function. Perfectly fine. Yeah, again, there's really nothing to understand. It's just like why? Yeah, don't ask yourself why at this point, right? Yeah, ask yourself why when you go to college and you're like, I don't know, in your 5th year of advanced mathematics, right? Like definitely. I mean, why is a great question. It's just understand that asking why is not going to help you pass the GED, right? If you want to pass the GED, just focus on what I'm telling you. A function has to have a single value y for every value x. So here the issue with this graph here is that when x is 1, there's 2 output values of y. So for this data set to be a function, we need to get rid of one of these two or both. But here, yeah, so we can get rid of 1, 1, and now this is a function over here, right? Definitely we could have also gotten rid of 1, 3, but that's not an option, so I'm just not going to worry about it. This is just what it means to have a function, and it looks like the GED really wants you to understand that. What is a function? Anne owns an art supply store. Anne is analyzing the store's expenses and income because she wants to increase the store's profits. The expenses including renting 1,250 square feet of space for $13,750 per month. The store has one employee who is paid $8 per hour plus 8% commission. That's criminal. You can't pay people $8 an hour. That's ridiculous. Much of the store's income comes from sales of blank painting canvases and frames. The table shows the prices of the canvases and frames sold at the store. What's the question? Store employee works 35 hours per week. Which inequality can be used to find the dollar value X of weekly sales that the employee must make to earn more than $400 per week? Answer is B. So if they make $8 per hour and they work 35 hours, they're definitely going to make 35 times $8, right? And then they get an 8% commission on their sales. So X represents the sales. So 0.08X would represent the commission. So obviously, like, so if you sell $100 worth of stuff, your commission's not $800, right? That doesn't make sense. 8 times 100 is 800. So we're not multiplying by 8 here. We're multiplying by 0.8. So if you sell hopefully this is very clear. 100 times 0.08. This literally works. Yeah. So if you make an 8% commission, hopefully you understand that if you sell $100 worth of stuff, you can get $8, right? That's literally what 8% means. So 0.08 mathematically represents 8%. You definitely know that. And then we want that to be more than 400. That's what the greater than symbol means. Yeah, it's the correct answer. Anne buys her store's art supplies from a wholesaler. She purchases 8 canvases that are 16 by 20 inches for $7.16 each. How much profit does Anne make on the sale of these 8 canvases? A variety of different ways to solve this problem. I definitely think the simplest way is, so she buys 16 by 20 inch canvases for $7.16. And she sells them for $11.65, right? So how much money is she making per canvas? This question must have been written in like the 80s. Like, there's no way you're buying a giant canvas for $11, bro. A giant canvas is going to be like $45. Whatever, it doesn't matter. So here, if you buy the canvases at $7.16 and you sell them for $11.65, you do $11.65 minus $7.16 to find that you're making $4.49 per canvas, right? And you're going to sell 8 of them, so you multiply that by 8. That's $35.92. Right? Yeah, so you're buying canvases for $7.16, you're selling them for $11.65. Well, that means you're making $4.49 per canvas you sell. Well, how about we sell 8 of them? Well, just multiply 449 by 8 to get $35.92. Yeah, this question is like kind of silly. It's just like 16 by 20 canvas. I guarantee you it's going to be like at least $50. What? Are you serious? It's only $13? I guess it's not that crazy. Canvases are a lot cheaper than I expected. I guess 16 by 20 is not that big, huh? Like, yeah, definitely I'm used to thinking about canvases being like gigantic. Never mind. I was wrong. Pretty reasonable price, actually. Okay. Alvin is comparing the cost of music downloads from 3 websites. Arrange the websites from least expensive per song to most expensive per song. $2 per song. Song Central is definitely the most expensive at $2 per song. I feel like Music Mania is the least expensive. Definitely, I'm running out of time. So I'm just going to toss the answer in there, but definitely you can just do like 14 divided by 8. That's 1.75. You do 10.5 divided by 7. That's the cheapest one. Yeah, definitely Music Mania is the cheapest. Song Factory is in the middle, and then this one's 2. Time's up. Okay. So there were like 3 questions or 2 questions that we didn't get to finish, which is unfortunate. Definitely, thankfully we were able to like discuss every single question quite in depth, which was nice. And then definitely, I think I expect to have the scores for that test before Thursday, so we'll go over that together. I definitely expect a pass, a solid pass there, even with the last 3 questions missing. Yeah, for some reason they wait like a day to give me the score, which is very odd. I don't know why they do that. That's fine. Okay. So definitely, yeah, you need to be able to factor, you need to be able to do inequalities, you need to be able to do word problems, you need to understand the definition of a function, right? Not that bad. Not that bad. Let's have you guys try some problems here. So definitely, I demonstrated, like 30 problems in a row. Hopefully that was not too overwhelming. Definitely, I want you guys to try some of these problems here. Definitely, it's okay if you miss problems, right? We'll go over it together. So here we have a question. Painter rented a wallpaper steamer at 9 a.m. and returned it at 4 p.m. He paid a total of $28.84. What was the rental cost per hour? Okay, so here, feel free to use a calculator. Obviously, you need to figure out how long did we rent the steamer. And then once you figure out the number of hours, hopefully you can figure out the cost per hour, right? I'll give you like 4 minutes to do this problem, and then we'll go over it together. Hopefully most of you guys will finish well ahead of 4 minutes. Oh yeah, if you get the answer, you can like put it in the chat. That's fine. Yeah, absolutely. The answer is C. Right. Yeah, like so here, like feel free to count on your fingers, right? So we start at 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's 7 hours, right? So and then if it costs 28.84, you divide 28.84 by 7. Literally 28.84 divided by 7. 28.84 divided by 7. That's 412. Good. Very good. Very good. Next one. Next one. So we have 36x minus 8y squared. They want you to plug in 3 for x and negative 6 for y. Hopefully you guys can do that. Are you guys getting an answer? Yeah, you can always like send me the answers like privately, right? You just need to change it to just me. In case if you are feeling like embarrassed about sharing your answers. So you're getting numbers, but none of them are. They're not matching the answer choices. Um, you have no clue. Um, okay, let's really break it down. So they want us to plug in 3 for x, and then negative 6 for y. Let's start with 36 times 3. What's 36 times 3? What do we need? Can you do negative 6 squared? What is negative 6 squared? 36. Yeah, negative 6 times negative 6 is 36. No, negative 6 times negative 6 is not negative 36. This is very important. Hopefully that makes sense, right? A negative number times a negative number is a positive number. You need to know that. Like, definitely, like, if you try to square negative numbers on the calculator, you can run into problems, because the calculator, if you type in negative 6 squared, the calculator interprets that as multiply 6 to itself and make it negative. But you just need to understand that negative 6 times negative 6 is positive 36. Positive 36. Can you guys finish this problem now? Like, yeah, you can do like 8 times 36, and then whatever you get here, you can do 108 minus that number. Answer is negative 180. So if you're doing this type of question on the calculator, right, I would highly recommend doing it in pieces. Yeah, so definitely the issue that most kids run into, and definitely don't feel bad. Like, I would say a solid 90% of high school students don't know how to use the calculator. It's just a sad reality of modern America. Kids hate their calculator. They never turn it on. Like, as far as I can tell, the average high school student has turned on their calculator maybe once in their entire life. They just don't know how to use it. So here, what most kids are going to do... Interesting. What most kids are going to try to do is 36 times 3 minus 8 times negative 6 squared, like this. That's just incorrect. So here, again, my advice is just break it up into as many pieces as possible. Just keep it super simple. The more combinations of calculations that you guys try to do in one line, the higher the likelihood that there's going to be a mistake in what you typed in, right? Yeah, so here I would just stick to the basics. 36 times 3. Yeah, so here, like, definitely I would write it out by hand first, right? Yeah, so just 36 times 3 minus 8 times negative 6 squared. And then here, this is definitely something about the calculator that you need to know. You cannot type in negative 6 squared like this. Negative 6 squared, the calculator thinks that's negative 36. And that's because the calculator follows the basic order of operations. Yeah, so the calculator, when they see negative 6 squared, they think, oh, we're going to do the exponent first, and then we're going to multiply that by negative 1. The calculator definitely interprets the negative symbol as a multiplication operator, and so the calculator does that second, because in the order of operations, PEMDAS, exponents come before multiplication. So here, like, you can either just know that negative 6 times negative 6 is positive 36, or, like, if you really want to, like, square a negative number for some reason, you need to use parentheses. And that's why I use parentheses here. Like, if you don't use parentheses here, that means negative 36. But if we square negative 6, that's this. So again, my advice is to do 36 times 3. Just know that negative 6 squared is positive 36. And then you do 8 times 36. And then you do 108 minus 288. Like, I mean, like, yes, it's annoying, but, like, this is literally why this is on the test, right? Because, like, the people who make the test know that most kids can't do this on the calculator. Like, you just have to know how to do it on the calculator, right? And, like, here, I would definitely, like, spend some time to make sure that you see negative 180 on the calculator, right? Like, if you can't get to negative 180 on the calculator, you're never going to get this problem correct, right? Or just do it by hand. Like, worst case scenario, like, just do it by hand, be fast at your arithmetic. Just be quick with your arithmetic, right? Yeah, 36 times 3, 6 times 3 is 18. 3 times 3 is 90. This is equal to 108. 6 times 6 is 36, times 8, this is 48, carry the 4. 24 plus 4 is 288, and then you're going to do 108 minus 288. How do you do that? Well, I would think about it this way. 288 minus 108. Well, 288 minus 108 is definitely 180. Well, then if 288 minus 108 is 180, 108 minus 288 is negative 180. But you know, I don't need you to, like, definitely, hopefully you can tell this is way harder than just like actually learning how to use the calculator. Just learn how to use the calculator, please. Right? Like, yeah, you want your GED? Spend 45 minutes learning how to use your calculator. Right? Like, I feel like that's not that much of an ask. Like, you want your high school credits? Spend 45 minutes on your calculator. Learn how to use it. And I swear to you, like, if you spend like literally 45 minutes on your calculator doing test problems, right, and you get to a point where you can use your calculator proficiently, you're already better at math than, I would say, a solid 75% of Americans. Because as far as I can tell, like, unless you're like an engineer, a computer scientist, or like a physicist or mathematician, like, literally no one in America knows how to do math. So like, if just any amount of mathematical skill that you can develop, even as simple as turning on your calculator and typing in some numbers, like, yeah, don't be embarrassed that you didn't know that negative 6 squared was positive 36. Like, I like, literally 90% of high school kids can't answer that question. But just know, like, that's how easy it is to be better than the average person at math, right? Just know that negative 6 times negative 6 is a positive number. And know how to plug that into the calculator. Okay. We have this question. Annie is planning a business meeting for her company. She has a budget of $1,325 for renting a meeting room at a local hotel and providing lunch. She expects 26 people to attend the meeting. The cost of renting the room is $270, which inequality shows how to find the amount X Annie can spend on lunch for each person. Okay. Pretty standard inequality word problem. You know, hopefully, I don't know, hopefully you did these like in 5th grade. Do you remember how to do that? It's okay if you don't remember. Just try your best. Take your best guess. No. Yeah. Yeah, why is your first answer wrong? Yeah, I'm responding to someone in the chat. The sign, yeah. What about the sign? Yeah, like, you want to spend less than $1,325, right? Yeah, so if you pick A, you're saying, like, I want to spend more than that. But if to have a budget means that you want to spend less than that. Yeah, so the correct answer here is B. So this 26x plus 270 represents the amount of money that the meeting's going to cost, right? And so if x is the amount of money per person for lunch, 26 times that number is going to be the amount of money you're going to spend for food. And then we're going to spend $270 for the meeting room. And we want that to be less than or equal to 1,325. That's it. Yeah, so there's no reason to multiply the rent times the food. Why would you multiply rent times food? That doesn't make sense. You multiply the number of people times the cost per meal per person. And then you want to add the rent. And then, yeah, you want to make sure that that's less than our budget. Yeah, if you pick A, you're saying, like, I want to spend an infinite amount of money on food. Which, honestly, I would love that if I could do that. But I do love food. And definitely, like, most of my money goes straight to food. I love food. And food's so expensive nowadays. Why is everything so expensive? I wish I could eat canvases. Oh my god. Can't believe a canvas is like $14. Like, why is like a number one at McDonald's more than a canvas? It just doesn't make sense to me. Dominic earns $285 per week plus 8% commission rate on all his sales. If Dominic sells $4,213 worth of merchandise in 1 week, how much will his total earnings for the week be? Kind of a similar question to one that we saw earlier. So this time, he makes this much money per week, and he has an 8% commission. Dominic's amazing. He's selling $4,213 worth of stuff. Okay, so calculate his commission. What's 8% of 4,213? Feel free to use your calculator. And we're going to add his weekly pay, right? Yeah, hopefully you guys are getting an answer. Yeah, again, 8% is 0.08. If you ever get confused about percentages on the calculator, right, you can always just do 8 divided by 100. This is a really easy way to handle percentages. And 8 divided by 100 is literally the same thing, 0.08. So we want to do 0.08 times 4,213. So this is the amount of money that he gets in commissions, right? So how much money does he make total? A is not the correct answer. Why? Because he also gets paid outside of commissions? Next. Answer is D. Yes, here again, I showed you how to calculate 8% of $4,213, either 0.08 or 8 divided by 100. Yeah, like, yeah, again, I know some kids struggle with the percentage to decimal conversion. Yeah, if that's you, just literally type in 8 divided by 100 each time. We're going to multiply that by 4,213. And then this, again, not the final answer. Why? Because he also gets paid $285 on top of his commissions. Final answer, 622.04. Good. Interesting. So here we have to like place the points on the graph, so you guys can't really do this. Scientist is studying red maple tree growth. She measured the trunk diameters of a sample of trees in the same month every other year. The tables show the data for 2 of the trees. Okay, so it's not that complicated. We measured the diameter, the width of a tree every 2 years. And we measured it and wrote it down. This is the final year in which she will collect data. When her data collection is complete, she will predict future red maple tree growth. The scientist, I'm going to start reading up here now. The scientist plots the data for tree 2 on a coordinate grid. She begins by plotting data for year 3 and year 11. What are the locations of the 2 points on the coordinate grid? Okay, interesting question. So we're looking at tree 2 because they said so. We're looking at tree 2. And we're looking at year 3 and year 11. Why? Because they said so. Just follow the instructions, right? So 3, horizontal is years, vertical is diameter. So we have 312, tree 2, 312. So we start at 3, we go up, 12, it's right here. So that's simple. 11, 14.4. Yes, we have 11, 14.4 is like there. Right? Not too complicated. It looks really hard, right? But at the end of the day, it ends up being super simple. Definitely run into a lot of questions like this. Don't get intimidated. Read it. Follow the instructions. We have a bunch of data. They want us to look at tree 2. Tree 2 is over here. They want us to look at year 3 and year 11. Year 3 is 312. Put it on the chart. 11, 14.4. Put it on the chart. Yeah. It's not crazy, right? Yeah, it just looks hard, but it's actually like one of the easiest problems. Mm-hmm. So we have the same data as before. What do they want us to do this time? The scientist creates an equation that models her data for each tree so she can predict the diameter in the future. Complete a linear equation that fits the data for tree 1, where x is the year and y is the trunk diameter in inches. How do I explain? So this is like a basic linear equation problem, right? So here, hopefully you've seen this type of question in school before, where if you have data like 1 comma 18.6, right? Okay. So we have 1 comma 18.6, 3 comma 19.2, right? How do you find the equation of a line that goes through these 2 points? Well, you can start by calculating the slope, right? So the slope is equal to m is slope, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So here we can do 19.2 minus 18.6, so we're going to subtract the y's and then we're going to divide that by subtracting the x's. So 19.2 minus 18.6, feel free to use your calculator, right? That's literally 0.6. 3 minus 1, that's 2. 0.6 divided by 2, that's literally 0.3. Okay? So hopefully you also know that the equation for a line is always y equals mx plus b for the slope-intercept form. So now we know m. So now we know that y is equal to 0.3x plus b. How do we find b? Well, we can use one of the data points, right? So let's use this data point here. So y is going to be equal to 18.6, and then x is equal to 1. 0.3 times 1 is 0.3. So b plus 0.3 equals 18.6. Hopefully it's obvious that b is equal to 18.3. 18.6 minus 0.3 is 18.3. So this would be like the textbook method to solve this problem. They want a linear equation that fits this data. Well, I'm just going to choose the first two pieces of data. I mean, you could do the same thing with any of the two combinations, but I just pick the first two because they're the easiest to handle. So this is the equation for the slope. You definitely need to know that. They tell you that in the formula sheet. I guess the hard part is like recognizing that's what you need. And that's literally the slope over here. M slope of the line. Yeah, all the information that you need is here. But like honestly, like if you have to go to the formula sheet for this, it's not like that's not a good position to be in. You kind of just want to know this. Slope is y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. That's the rate of change. Rise over run. Yeah, rise is the change in y. Run is the change in x. y2 minus y1 is literally the change in y. x2 minus x1 is literally the change in x. So the y changes by 0.6. X changes by 2. Right? It goes from 1 to 3. It goes up by 2. So the slope is 0.3. So 0.3 goes here. I would multiply that to the x because that's what it means to have a slope. Y equals mx plus b. So now we know slope. We also know some values for x and y, so we can plug in those numbers. Here I plugged in 18.6 for y and 1 for x to solve for b. So if I do that, I get 18.6 equals 0.3 times 1, which is 0.3. 0.3 times 1 is 0.3. Plus b, what is b? b is 18.3. So definitely I didn't do that all in my head. Yeah, so like I just kind of like looked at it for 10 seconds and then I plugged in the answers, right? Like this is not what I was doing in my head. How was I able to solve this problem in my head? If you're curious, like I'll tell you. Well, I know that this is x because it's a linear equation, y equals mx plus b. I know that the slope is positive, so it's definitely not these two. Like, why do I know the slope is positive? The tree gets bigger, right? If the slope were negative, that would mean that the tree's getting smaller. The tree's definitely getting bigger. So here I'm asking myself, did the tree grow by 0.3 each year, or did it grow by 0.6 each year? Well, it took 2 years to go 0.6, so it just means that it went up 0.3 each year. And then I know that when x equals 0, the diameter has to be less than 18.6. It's actually going to be 18.6 minus 0.3. That much I can do in my head. So I immediately calculated 18.3. It just works. Also, you can just like, I don't know, like once I have it, then I can just check. Like I plug in 1, 0.3 plus 18.3 is 18.6. 3 times 0.3 is 0.9. 0.9 plus 18.3 is 19.2. It doesn't matter which number you plug in, it's going to work. Yeah, that's kind of how I solve these types of problems. Just like start thinking about it. Like definitely the slope's not negative. Slope's not 0.6, so it must be 0.3x. Well, if it's 0.3x, well then it can't be 18.6. Is it 18? No, it's not 18. It's 18.3. Correct answer. But definitely, if you want a more textbook answer, you use the equation for the slope, you use the 2 points, you do the calculation, you get the slope is 0.3. You need to recognize that that's the slope, you put it here, you multiply that to the x because that's what you do with slopes. And then you can solve for B algebraically by plugging in some values into the equation. Right? Like yeah, again, it looks complicated because there's so much data and so many instructions. But at the end of the day, this is like a basic pre-algebra problem. Like they give you some data. They want you to find the linear equation that represents the data. This is the technique. You calculate the slope, plug in the numbers, calculate the y-intercept. And then they also have this like really fancy drag and drop situation here, which you have to handle. It's not crazy. It's definitely not rocket science. It's math. It's high school level math. I'm not going to say it's like free. Same data. In year 13, the scientists will put a tree wrap around tree 1 to protect it from the winter snow. The height of the tree wrap needs to be 45 inches. The wrap is priced per square foot. To the nearest square foot, how many square feet of wrap does she need? Okay, let me help you with this one a little bit. So we're looking at tree 1, and we're looking at year 13. So the diameter of the tree is 22.2. So hopefully you realize, like, to wrap something that's 22.2 inches around, the wrap needs to be 22 inches long, right? So if the wrap is 22.2 inches long and it's 45 inches tall, do you think you can calculate the area of the wrap? Oh, sorry. Diameter, not circumference. Okay. So here, the diameter is this way across. Yeah, sorry, I misled you for a second. So the diameter is the thickness of the tree, right? So here, if you know the thickness of the tree, hopefully you can calculate the circumference of the tree, the length around the tree, right? And then once you have the length around the tree, you can multiply that length by the height to get the area of the wrap. If you need the circumference of a circle, the circumference of the circle is 2 pi r, where r is the radius. It's also, circumference is also equal to pi times the diameter. I don't know. I don't want to give away the answer, right? But oh, there's another thing that you need. They're asking, you need to convert to feet. Yeah, make sure you're converting to feet. let's try this one together. So at year 13, the diameter of the tree trunk is 22.2 inches. So, and hopefully you realize we need to calculate the circumference of the tree, right? Well, the circumference of the tree is going to be equal to 22.2 times pi. So let's go ahead and do that. And just to keep it simple, I'll just use 3.14. Okay, so the circumference of the tree is approximately 69.708. And the height is 45. So here, actually, I would convert both of these numbers into inches now. Yeah, so it's definitely, it's not that hard, but it's way harder to convert from square inches to square feet versus inches to feet. It's very, very easy to convert from inches to feet, right? To convert from inches to feet, you just divide by 12. So if the circumference is 69 inches, you divide by 12 inches to calculate that, it's 5.809 feet. Yeah, that's the way around. And then 45 inches, what is that in feet? 45 divided by 12 is 3.75. So you do 3.75 times 5.809. Answer is A. It's a tough problem. It's a tough problem. A lot of steps in this one. I think for this one, like, hopefully you can just imagine. So definitely, somebody said that they got D, which is probably just 69 times 45 divided by 12. Yeah. So you need to divide by 12 twice to convert from square feet to from square inches to square feet. Unfortunate mistake. But I'm hoping that, like, this one's not super easy, but maybe you can do this exercise. Like, try imagining 261 square feet. 261 square feet, that's a lot. Like, 261 square feet, that's like the size of a big room. Like 100 square feet. 100 square feet is like a very small room, maybe like a big closet. 200 square feet is like a room. I guess it's not that large actually. But that's like way bigger than you need to wrap a tree. Like at 45 inches, we're not wrapping the whole tree. We're just wrapping the bottom of the tree. I don't know. It's not super easy, but definitely it'd be nice if you could like recognize that D is not the correct answer, just like by using common sense. But definitely this is a tough one for sure. It's okay. Yeah, again, you only need to get 60% of the questions correct. This one's one of the ones that you miss. That's fine. There's a lot of things going on here. You have to look at the chart. You have to be able to calculate the circumference. You need to be able to recognize that the circumference is what you need to calculate the area of the wrap. And then you also need to be able to convert inches to feet before you multiply to get square feet. It's a tough one. It's absolutely a tough one. Definitely the toughest question that we've seen so far. Okay, let's see if we can do this one. The graph shows the level of ibuprofen Y units in a patient's bloodstream X hours after the ibuprofen was taken. Okay, so that makes sense. So, you have a headache, you take some ibuprofen. The ibuprofen in your bloodstream shoots up for the first 30 minutes, and then it slowly goes down, right? That just makes sense. So it definitely takes like a couple minutes for the medicine to get into your bloodstream, and then once after like an hour or so, it starts wearing off, right? Just how it is. The level of ibuprofen in the patient's bloodstream increased from blank hours to blank hours. So here are your options: 0, 2/3, 2.5, 5, 8. 2/3, 2.5, 5, 6, 8. So take a look at the graph. When does the ibuprofen level start increasing, and when does it stop increasing? Again, your options are 0, 2/3, 2.5, 5, 8. Two-thirds, 2.5, 5, 6, 8. Absolutely. 0 and 2/3, right? Like it starts falling before the first hour is over. Yeah, so it's definitely 0 and 2/3. It immediately starts going up, and then it stops going up at about 40 minutes, it looks like. Good. Yeah, and this is very important, right? Like, yeah, you run into like some difficult problems like 7. Don't give up. Just pick something. Keep going. Yeah, like don't waste too much time on this stuff, right? Because definitely we get a question like this. Definitely you can do this one. Okay. Office uses paper drinking cups. What's the volume of the drinking cup? You go to the formula sheet. Write this down, right? We want the volume of a cone. Write this down. V equals 1/3 pi r squared h. One more time. V equals 1/3 pi r squared h. Here, recognize that they give you the diameter, right? Definitely know the difference between the diameter and the radius. This is the diameter. Absolutely make sure you calculate the radius first. Yeah, otherwise, then you can just use the formula. Let's see if you guys can get the correct answer. And again, if you can't do the math, right, try to take your best guess. And again, like, hopefully you can imagine like a square inch or cubic inch. Like, how many cubic inches in a paper cup? Right, hopefully you can tell it's like more than one. Definitely, like, paper cup has more than 1 cubic inch of water. Yeah, like a really good way to calculate like a cubic inch is like a decently sized ice cube is like a cubic inch. How many ice cubes can you put into a paper cup? Definitely more than 3. Yeah, take your best guess, and then we'll do it together. Any thoughts? Answer C. No, wait. Answer is B. Nice. I messed up. What did I do wrong? Answer is B? Wait a minute. Why is my calculator showing C? So this is the radius squared, times pi, times 4. I'm getting C. Oh, I forgot to divide by 3, of course. Okay, there we go. Yeah, answer's B. Nice. Forgot to divide by 3. Silly me. Nice work, nice work. Yeah, so this is the, okay. Let's break it down. Volume, 1/3 pi r squared h. So they gave us the diameter. So diameter is all the way across the circle, right? And the radius is half of that. So we want to do 2.75. 2.75 is 2 3/4, right? 2 3/4 is 2.75. We divide that by 2 to get 1.375. So the volume becomes very simple. Volume becomes 1/3 pi 1.375 squared times 4. Yeah, this paper cup's pretty small, yeah, so that makes sense. Like 8 ice cubes fills up the tiny paper cup. Okay. So definitely you can do it all at once. 1/3 times pi times 1.375 squared times 4. You can also do it all individually. This is probably safer. 3.1375 squared times 4 times pi times 1/3. Correct answer is 7.9. Very good, very good, very good. Last one for today. There are S steps from the pedestal to the head of the Statue of Liberty. Steps from the pedestal to the head of the Statue of Liberty? Is this what they're talking about? Here's my Statue of Liberty. So are they saying the distance from here to here? Like, why would you call that steps? I guess like the Statue of Liberty has like staircase inside, right? Is that what they're talking about? What are they saying? There are S steps from the pedestal to the head of the Statue of Liberty. Number of steps in the Washington Monument is 27, less than 6 times the number of steps in the Statue of Liberty. Maybe they're talking about the staircase inside the Statue of Liberty. Okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. So there's S steps from the pedestal to the head of the Statue of Liberty. Number of steps in the Washington Monument is 27 less than 6 times the number of steps in the Statue of Liberty. Has to be C. Yeah, so it's definitely not A, right? Yeah, 27 is less than 6 times. So if like I have 3 less apples than Jake, well then you do the number of apples that Jake has and then subtract 3. Like, yeah, definitely. It can be easy to get confused about the phrase less than. So if you say like the number of apples I have is less than the number of apples that Jake has, well then it would be like X is less than J. But if you say I have 3 less apples than Jake, well then that's J minus 3. So here, 27 less than 6 times S is literally 6S minus 27. Am I making sense? It doesn't matter if I don't make sense. Just at a certain point, you just need to like understand. You just need to like do what I tell you to do. Yeah, I think definitely that's kind of like the solution. Definitely, it's very tempting to get stuck on like the details and the why and the reason. But honestly, like all that doesn't like. At that point, you just have to realize like, are you taking the GED because you want to be intellectually satisfied, or are you taking the GED because you want to pass it, right? Like hopefully, I'm assuming that you're taking the GED because you want to pass it. Like being intellectually satisfied is like a secondary goal right now. Like here, yeah, you just need to recognize like if I tell you like the distance from my house to the library is 3 miles less than the distance from my house to the Walgreens, well then you just have to realize like the distance to the Walgreens minus 3 is equal to the distance to the library. But if I say like the distance to the library is less than the distance to the Walgreens, well then it would be library is less than Walgreens. But if I say the distance to the library is 3 less than the distance to the Walgreens, well then like L is equal to W minus 3. Like, yes, like I don't know, this exercise is actually extraordinarily difficult, like converting English into math. It's hard, it's absolutely really difficult. Again, just try your best, right? Yeah, like you don't need to get all these questions correct. Yeah, you only need 60%. It's okay to miss questions. Yeah, definitely my advice is just work through the pre-algebra in Khan Academy. Yeah, definitely we'll take a look at how we did together earlier on Thursday. We'll get the grades back. Also, yeah, where's that file? I sent you guys that file, right? For the Kaplan test. Yeah, definitely there's plenty of math practice in the Kaplan test. And it'll be much more systematic, which will be nice, right? Yeah, they'll go through like individual skills one by one. It's just, you know, if you like to go through these skills individually one by one, you have to realize like that would take weeks. You know, we only have 4 hours to work on this stuff, so we're just kind of like flying through it. You definitely, hopefully you were able to keep up. Hopefully a couple of these things made sense. Again, you don't need to understand everything, right? You just need to understand like slightly more than half of it. I definitely think that you guys can get there. We'll definitely practice more. We'll practice out of the Kaplan book together on Thursday. Hopefully, I'm not really hoping. I'm very confident that we passed the GED, even though we didn't get to the last 3 questions. Hopefully, I'll be able to prove that to you on Thursday. Yeah, definitely, I'll get this video uploaded as soon as I log off. I'll send you guys the email in like an hour or 2. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, definitely the math is hard. Definitely it's hard. It's just, you know, if it was easy, everyone would do it, right? Like, it's just, yeah, this stuff. You know, like, you know, depending on what your goals are, right? Like, you want to go to college, you want to like get a job. It's just, you just need to be ready to like prove that you have these skills. And if you don't have these skills, you need to be ready to put in the time and effort to learn them, right? Really, that's just what it comes down to. Like, definitely, I wish I could like be nicer about it, but at a certain point, like, it just comes down to, are you ready to learn the stuff? Are you ready to put in the work? Like, if you know it already, are you ready to get focused, nail it, sit down, answer the questions correctly, do the math? If you're not there, like, you just need to get there. And I'm going to try my best to help you out, right? Yeah, so hopefully, like, going through the problems together, seeing what types of problems show up in the GRE, the GED helped you out. Yeah, definitely a lot of the problems are tough. Don't be intimidated, right? Yeah, definitely don't give up. It's my job here to make sure you continue working, continue practicing, continue improving. Absolutely. I'm going to keep trying my best to help you guys out. Yeah, we'll keep working on this stuff together on Thursday. Have a fantastic evening. I really appreciate you guys. Hopefully I'll see you guys again on Thursday. Bye.